Well, Tim, it's great to have you here. My name is AJ Navarro here from a Mexican media called CineNT, and I want to talk to you about this feature, which I th find it very, very interesting in many ways, which is Ancestral Beasts, and it's presenting and Fantasia. You pitched it a little bit in Cannes, if I recall well, and
hmm
it went well. So that it well now it's a long feature. But tell me a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the background, the story, because I think it's very important to for many of us that, and I include myself. I didn't knew about the the 60s scoop, for example. No, I think that's one of the bases to kind of comprehend what is the message around this film. So tell me a little bit about that historic moment, because I think it is fundamental not only for the film but for the people to get to know that was a key historic moment for these indigenous countries and people in Canada.
Yeah, okay. So the 60s scoop is a period of time when the government found reasons to take Indigenous children away from their parents and put them in foster homes that weren't Indigenous. They did it with the reason they gave for doing it was that it was for the children's own good, for their own welfare, because maybe they thought the parents weren't capable of raising the kids or whatnot. But essentially, they found excuses to take children away, Indigenous children away from their parents, and put them in white homes. And when we look back now, um, we understand that this was a tactic to take away Indigenous culture and have it blend with white society. And yeah, some people use the term cultural genocide.
Yeah.
So for my family in particular, my mom was the one who was taken away. She was put in terrible foster homes. But this story isn't just, the story of the 60s Scoop isn't just exclusive to Canada. They have, I believe it's Australia or New Zealand, they have the stolen children. I mean, you look anywhere in the world where there are Indigenous children and, a land being colonized, usually the people in power try to, you know, different tactics to wipe out cultures. And, doing it with the children is a tactic that been tried and true for millenniums.
And that is why I think it's important to talk about it just like an intro for Ancestral Beasts to the film, because
Mhm.
that, of course, generates this intergenerational trauma. There's something that, like you said, I think, yeah, it's a cultural genocide. Uh, and it's horrible that it happens anywhere in the world. But I think it's very interesting to put it on there because that's what the film kind of talks about a little bit about that intergenerational trauma and about the ghosts, the skeletons in the closet that as families as related, because also this is a very personal project for you, Tim, and
Yeah,
that you have to put and face up through because it kind of the past follows you up, right? And that's kind of what our character, the main character, has to face in the film. So tell me a little bit about that. First of all, how did you put such a personal subject to yourself into a film that it's also very personal and also uh, I won't say hard to view, but I think it's really removing emotional parts for the for the ones that watch it too.
absolutely. I never set out to tell stories about myself. In fact, quite the opposite. I want to go and tell other people's story and have the camera pointed at other people. Then a few years ago, I was challenged to point the camera at my own people. And I mean, and also for my whole adult life, my mom used to always say, maybe one day you'll tell my story. Maybe one day you'll tell my story. And like a foolish kid, I was desensitized to my mom's story because she would always tell us at the worst possible times when she was the most upset and things were the most chaotic in the house. I just think like, oh, mom, why can't you be like everybody else? So I had a lot of shame with that too. But there came a point in time where, I wanted to look back at my mom and my childhood more compassionately. And so to do that, I had to get over certain resentments, certain shame, certain fear. And what I found was that I could see that my mom was being attacked by something within her, that she didn't ask for, but she didn't have the tools to manage it very well. And so, she did her best. She was a lovely woman and very, very, very loving mother. And she also had this other part of her that was, causing so much chaos and instability in the house. For me as a child, it felt like this creature that would be hiding in the shadows, lurking in the darkness, just waiting to be activated to attack. And so that had a whole legacy on my family. And so this story, Ancestral Beasts, we don't name the 60 scoop right at the surface of the story. It's woven into, every character and every plot point. And we don't name the trauma or the mental health disorder, the severe mental health disorder in the film, because those kind of labels start to make the movie and the story more exclusive. And with the way we tell stories in my Indigenous community, we like to be very inclusive with our stories so that other people who are even outside of our community can relate. And so that's what I try to do with this story. And also because a lot of that subject matter is still very raw to me. I made it as an allegory. So it's not really talking specifically about me, even though the story is very autobiographical. And I guess the last thing is that I don't own the exclusive right to Indigenous intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
You know, many, many people share it. And so this story was also designed with the help of elders and knowledge keepers, and also leading experts in family systems, harm reduction, and psychologists who came alongside to really help guide the story. I took a very documentary approach. I don't know many horror movies that take a documentary approach, but for those who see it, they can see like, oh, this isn't a typical horror movie where, it's about trauma. This is a horror movie that's about healing, and all the barriers to healing. The stigmas, the self stigma, the systemic stigma, the social stigma, and how that inhibits healing, and what that does to a person, their anxieties, their fears, you know, as they're just trying to get better.
I totally agree. I have to say also that what a way to battle that cultural genocide and that international trauma that with art, with a movie that goes around this. Because, and I mean it because there's a lot of almost the whole cast and is from indigenous roots, and I think that's
Hmm.
pretty lovely because it not only it's not inclusion per inclusion like many of us say recently. It's talking about and getting the people the that lived in a way that thing like you said. I think it's perfectly said. It's not only you, it's quite a lot of the generation that kind of still live to heal that past and to move on. So tell me a little bit about that because I think that's also a very specific key in this film that I love in that telling the story by yourselves.
Yeah, I've always believed, even in my documentary work, I've always believed that the people in front of the camera have to be from the same community as the people behind the camera. So even if I was making a documentary way out, and well, I made a documentary in a rural fishing village in the Philippines, and we ended up hiring as many local crew as we possibly could. Fortunately, the Philippines had a lot of filmmaking talent. But then we also had the community who had never been filmmakers, never thought of being film. It's a village of fisher folk, and farmers. And so we taught them also how to be filmmakers. And that created such a more rich story because the cameras vanished for them and it becomes something very personal. And once I built trust with them, they could start to tell me what the real story is that we're seeing rather than performing for the camera. But that was in the documentary world. A fascinating thing happened in the narrative world too when I switched over and made Ancestral Beasts. As much of the crew as possible was either Red River Métis or Indigenous. I mean, Red River Métis is an indigenous group, but other indigenous nations as well. And then, of course, in front of the camera. And what we saw by doing that was once again, just like in documentary, the story became stronger and stronger. I wasn't extremely precious about the script and how the lines should be said or, what lines were being said. I mean, for the sake of our production, our production schedule, we had to follow a plan, but it was truly collaborative in not just in saying that because everybody says that, but because it became so personal for every single person involved in the film. We had 20 very, very tight days to shoot, and if we missed a day or anything, we wouldn't have a film and we wouldn't be talking here today. That's how tight things were. And we had a blizzard hit us that was so intense that everything was shut down in the town where we were shooting. And so we thought that morning, like, oh, that's it. That's the movie. Like, we'll see what we can cobble together for a crew. But every single person found a way to show up if they were coming through snowbanks up the Huron themselves. My own associate producer had this big truck, and he just drove all over the town, picking up anybody who couldn't make it, and everybody showed up that day. Not one person made an excuse, and they would have had a very reasonable excuse. That just goes to show the level of commitment, both on the crew side and on the cast side, to just bring their best every single day because they weren't just doing it for me because I wouldn't have had it that way. I don't think I'm individually that special, but they were doing it for their own personal belief and because they could see themselves in the story or somebody that they love, in their family or in their community. So they were doing it for that.
I think that's really, really valuable, as I said before. Tim, I have a very curious question right now. Um,
Mhm.
you said that you come from documentaries and talking about those perspectives. So how did you felt that transition from documentary and recording like real life with no fiction, no, and go to the horror genre with this psychological thing, which I think it's a transition that not everyone can say they can make in their careers.
Yeah, I didn't think it was too hard to make a transition from documentary to horror. When I was a kid, growing up, to keep myself off the streets, my friend Joey and my friend Ray, Joey's actually the cinematographer of this film, and Ray is an associate producer. We used to make movies in the forest with Joey's video camera. He saved up all his money and he was able to buy, maybe with some help from his parents too, a video camera. And yeah, we would make horror movies growing up. So it was already in my DNA. And then the documentary is really great for listening and paying attention. And the way I would approach documentaries is that I would have a plan going in, but I was ready to abandon that plan on day one because if you start off with a plan for a documentary and you finish the documentary exactly where you thought you would, you weren't doing your job right as a documentarian. And so using that approach to as a narrative film, it made it almost a seamless transition for me. Now, outsiders did not quite believe in me with the same level of confidence that I had in myself. so, so I had to, people would say, "We love your script, but wow, this will be a narrative," and that's really a different thing. So I had to go and I funded or got funding to shoot a short as a proof of concept. We shot 6 pages of the script to show what we can do, and everybody banded together and gave it their best. And we made a very low budget, almost no budget um, short into something that looked like $1 million production for 6 minutes. And then everybody, once they saw that, they said, "Yeah, you could totally make a feature film." And then that short we made that was just a proof of concept ended up playing during the Cannes Film Festival at the Marseille de Film. It, I would have never dreamed of that. So actually, I was pretty lucky that people didn't believe in me, and I had to prove myself because the act of proving myself created so much more visibility for the project that I could have ever dreamed of.
Yeah, I think much of the job of directing and producing and writing is just believing in yourself. I've talked to many people, and that's like the basic one. If you don't believe in yourself, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, and if you don't believe in yourself, it's hard to believe in other people, to
Totally.
to genuinely believe in other people. And I believe strongly in my cast and my crew, and I gave them a lot of leeway to the point where they'd be looking at me like, 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 do you know what you're doing? Like, you sure you should be trusting me? Like, it takes some people a few days to understand my style. That I'm like, no, no, I trust you this much. Like, I really want to collaborate with you. People are so used to like, you know, a dictator, not just a director.
Yeah.
And so it takes people a few days sometimes to understand, oh, he's going to be laid back this whole time. And really, the best idea does win. And that's what we're going to put on screen. Not just what his own ego says is the best idea, but really what everybody believes is the best idea for the project.
Totally. Let me talk about the symbology of the creature, the beast,
Mhm.
because I think it's a very simple thing, but it carries a lot of that emotion that the film transmits because it represents the whole trauma. It's the big elephant in the room. Well, it's not an elephant, but we're not gonna spoil that. But
Mhm.
I think that creature really symbolizes very well what Elise and her sister are going through and what we said at the beginning, the process of healing, the hard process of healing, and the monsters that they kind of never leave us alone. So tell me a little bit about that symbology because I think I loved it.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad. Thank you. So, yeah, that creature to me represents an inner protector that, with severe mental health disorders like say borderline personality disorder, how that comes about is that when you're a child and the people who are there to protect or who are supposed to protect you don't, and bad things happen to you, a child will develop their own inner protector. And we all do it to a certain degree, but when that child is put through horrible things, that protector becomes dysregulated and can will see things as a threat that aren't actually a threat, or things that are a threat. It's so desensitized that it won't protect the person in that situation. Trust me, I've been in that situation where I wish I had better common sense than going to a car with a certain person or dating a certain woman. So yeah, uh, but so for the film, that to me, that's what the creature represents. And so it sees certain people as a threat and attacks. It even sees the individual that is protecting. It overcompensates and does damage to the person that's trying to protect. Sometimes it hurts that person more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so the lesson in that for me that I hope other people take away too, is about how do you manage that creature? You know, how so you need it, right? There are times, and you see it in the film too, where that person needed protection and needed to have boundaries and needed to defend themselves. And maybe the creature acted in the right way, or maybe the creature went way too far, and it was a much bigger reaction than what the situation deserved. But really, that's how it all falls into the allegory. And so we designed that creature to embody all of that.
And what better thing that to protect you than the hand, our hands. But anyways, let's
Yeah,
just leave it that way. So the ones that haven't seen it, they need a
yeah.
surprise. Uh, so tell me a little bit also to bring ordering on to the end of the interview because well we have a such a time. But I want to ask you to also about Elise and how does I think you mentioned something really important at the beginning. It besides it's a very personal uh, theme that you touch here. I love the fact that you said that many of us can empathize with it, and I think it
Mhm.
is because I love at the end. This is not a spoiler because it's just at the end. It puts you put a sign when you say an advice that said if you feel like you have this mental illness, you have this situation, you're going through a hard time, please seek for help. I think that's something that we kind of pass by many times. I think we all have those problems. We all have felt in a very bad way, or we all have got bad days, psychologically speaking. And I think that's the beauty of this, because I think it reminds us you should not face this thing alone, even if it's a monster that you cannot kind of control yourself, but you should not face it alone. So tell me a little bit about that, because I think that's really beautiful and it's really remarkable to talk about that problems that we have that normally we kind of let them go.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. We shouldn't face these things alone. It only hurts us to face these things alone. And the real horror in the real world is that we self-stigmatize. So we don't see it in ourselves, and so we don't know that we need help until it's way too late. And so hopefully something like this film, if a person sees themselves in these situations or thinks they might see themselves in this situation, then yeah, you might as well just ask for a little help and check in to see if maybe the help benefits you. Or you do you do know that you have these things, but you're so ashamed of it yourself that you can't even admit it out loud. You really should. It's liberating to seek help. Or, you know, the systems that are in place right now, and you actually see this in the movie, are so hard to overcome to get the help that you need in certain ways that help's not necessarily going to come and find you. You know, no one's coming to save you but you. So you should seek help and not stop until you get the help that you particularly need. Don't give up because there's so many barriers right now, and it's kind of by design that if a person is suffering from severe mental health disorder, it's so hard to get the help that they need, but the help does exist. There are very, very good people out there, but it's only up to you to keep filtering through the assholes. I hope, sorry, don't mind if I could
It's
swear
okay. It's
here,
okay.
the pendejos. And yeah, you got to filter through all the pendejos to get to the right person who can actually help you. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree on that, and I think that's why everyone can relate to that. Everyone kind of get the kind of a it starts to be like a private hell, but it comes a common hell that our character faces up. So Tim, I want to thank you very much for this time for this interview. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I think we got to the most general aspect to the most particular aspect, which I love it, and I hope Ancestral Beasts can be watched for many people, not only in Fantasia but also in the world. That it goes on and on with our other festivals, and to many people that I think uh, these subjects, not only the historical problem we talk, but the mental problems. We should talk about them more. And what a way better to talk in, in like in the horror genre. So thank you very much, Tim.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I hope, well, I intend to bring the film to Mexico City. So, are you in Mexico City?
Yeah, I'm in Mexico City.
Then let's hang out when the movie comes and we'll watch it and we have a big party and celebrate together.
Sure. For me, it's okay.
All right. Sounds good, man. Well, muchas gracias and buenas tardes.
Muchas gracias, Tim. Thank you very much. Great film.
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.